Hello, I'm Kamal Santa Maria. This is Counting the Cost on Al Jazeera, your weekly look at the world of business and economics. This week, India and 100 days of new government. Has Narendra Modi made a successful start as Prime Minister? Stock markets at a record high. Business leaders seem to love him. But who's really responsible for India's current upturn? Also this week, Iran, after a spate of accidents, its homemade passenger jets have been grounded. We take a look at an aviation industry hit by sanctions and find out when or if it'll take off again. Plus, Angola opens up to the world. Its sovereign wealth fund has the money and is on a spending spree. So where will it park it all? Hello everyone, nice to be back with you. Thanks to Stephen and Adrian for filling in while I was away. This week we are revisiting India and doing it on two fronts actually. One, the progress which the new Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made in his short time in office. And two, India's relationship with another Asian economic powerhouse. That country is Japan, and India goes there with very good reason. In fact, Modi himself went there for 5 days of building bridges and defensive alliances. The short story is Japan and India want to counter China's clout in the region. Now, Modi didn't mention China by name, but in referring to and criticising an expansionist mindset, it's pretty clear who he is actually talking about. The two leaders even shared a big bear hug. Look at this, they're getting on very well there. Apparently, these two both recognise the need to attract billions of dollars in investment. Especially India, which should be the great growth story of Asia. So many people, so much territory, so much potential. In fact, look at these numbers, which do tell a story in themselves. This is the first 3 months of this year. India's economy grew 5.7%. That is the fastest growth in 2 years. Modi wasn't in power at that time, so he was arguably inheriting a strengthening economy. But it really needs to be expanding about that much, 9%, to create enough jobs for the millions of young people who are joining the labour force in India every month. Looks like Japan's willing to help out, though. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe promised to invest $30 billion into India over the next 5 years. We've got two reports to kick things off this week. Both are from Nidhi Dutt, who looks at the need for Japan's investment in India and also Narendra Modi's first 100 days in office.
The sweet side of doing business in India. Jess Bedi's family has manufactured confectionery for 40 years. Everything made here is exported to countries in Africa and the Middle East. But Bedi is hopeful that Narendra Modi's government will deliver on promises to fix the problems that ruin the taste of these treats: electricity shortages, complicated taxes, and a lack of workers.
Small scale industry basically would love to see the changes at the earliest, but I don't think it would happen for at least another year or two, because a lot of cleansing has to be done. Policies have to be bought in and bureaucratic hurdles, I believe.
An hour away from Mumbai, Ulhasnagar represents all that's right and wrong with India's economy. It's a hub of small and medium-sized businesses, the engines of growth. But over the years, it's been held back by poor planning, bad roads and bottlenecks. Tackling these problems could help to unlock India's economic potential. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's economic blueprint also includes providing more Indians with skills training and generating employment for millions of young people.
If things are handled well, GDP growth will accelerate. It could go up to anywhere between 8 and 10%. When GDP growth is at that level, as we have seen in the past, almost all sectors of the economy tend to do very well.
Like building Mumbai's modern skyline, reviving one of the world's largest economies is no small challenge. But observers say Narendra Modi's election victory in May delivered the political stability that foreign investors were looking for.
People are expecting this government to deliver more, but in a gradual fashion, and with earnings picking up, I think the next leg of the rally should entice more investors to come in.
Native Japanese food after a hard day's work. At a small diner in a remote Indian village, Japanese workers are trading stories about doing business in India.
Japan is pretty much punctual, and they just plan everything from A to Z, and then they scheduling everything. Everything should be done on time. But sometimes it's very difficult to do such things in India.
Honda's Indian business partner Vishal Jhunjhunwala is trying to help Indian and Japanese firms work together.
It's been my contribution to teach both sides, bridge a cultural gap, explain to Japanese people, Indians are not like others. We are very intelligent people. Listen to our ideas, adapt, as well as tell Indians, please adapt.
Daikin is one of more than 30 Japanese firms trying to adapt to India in a purpose-built manufacturing hub in the state of Rajasthan.
We are confident that the biggest impact will be felt in the future. The more Indians use our product, the better it will be for us and for them.
For centuries, the village of Neemrana was known for little more than an old fort that bears its name. From fertile plains to factories of the future, Neemrana is located at the heart of a special Japanese economic zone, the first of its kind in India. Its founders say this unique trade model has attracted nearly $1 billion worth of Japanese investment and transformed the local economy. But 1 hour from Neemrana, the story is very different. A partnership between Indian car manufacturer Maruti and Japanese firm Suzuki was plagued by strikes by local workers. Back in Neemrana, locals are cautious of the impact of the development.
When we sold our land, we received around $1,000 per hectare. We can't buy anything for that money today.
Trade between India and Japan is heating up. Multi-billion-dollar deals in sectors like manufacturing could help to revive the economies of both countries. But it may be some time yet before either side can toast to long-term success.
Now, we're going to look more at that India-Japan relationship with our guest, Prashant Sawant, who is an economist at Maplecroft, joining us from Bristol in the UK. But Prashant, before we do that, can I just talk about India on its own first? You know, that 5.7% growth number is really good. But I think maybe we need to look to the previous government to understand that.
Absolutely, Kamal, you're absolutely right there. This is the GDP growth number which relate to the period from March till June of this year, the first quarter of this financial year. And the Congress government before the left, they did pass very important laws, for instance, land law, also the change in the Company Act law. And these laws have also helped to boost the investment into the economy. The FDI law, which was passed during the UPA government, that has helped to bring lots of investment into India over the last few months. And what is importantly happening now is the industrial growth. As we know, industry is the main component for the Indian economy, and they have been going under lots of pressure. The industrial growth has been negative for almost 2 years in India, and that has been good numbers, especially manufacturing activities, mining activities. These two are back to a positive growth territory.
OK, and do we also have to look at the Governor of the Central Bank of India as well, Prashant? Because, again, he's been in power for about a year or so, another previous appointment, and managed some good things as well.
Absolutely. Mr. Raghuraman, he's a well-known economist. He has an international experience under his belt, and he has tried to bring that experience into the central bank, which is largely perceived as a bureaucratic institution in India, and it is rightly so to a greater extent. He has been very vigilant about the rising inflation rate, and he has managed to stave off all the pressures on him to raise the interest rate to lower the interest rate so far. Also try to bring in lots of transparency into the functioning of the monetary policy in India.
OK, there is, if we move things forward to this present government, now there is a sort of a fascination with what any government or any new leader can achieve within his or her, I should say, first 100 days in power. I think the media is probably fixated on that What do you think Narendra Modi's managed to achieve?
100 days is, of course, a very short period of time to assess anybody's tenure as such. However, Modi understandably has been under the media scandal even before the election, and therefore rightly so, people are curious to know what he's done in the first 100 days of his tenure. It is also because he has been very active in terms of propagating his strategy. He is a great orator, and therefore he has said lots of things through the media. Also during his independence speech a few weeks ago. But I think what we are still awaiting is the delivery. There is lots of positive vibes in India after his election. There has been an unprecedented victory to the BJP government, so he has a majority in the parliament. There is lots of things he can do to make India go forward, take that faith towards economy and the political side. But there hasn't been any concrete measures which has been seen so far. Also, there is a bit of ambiguity in terms of FDI policy. During his Independence Day speech, for instance, he said manufacturing is a major part of India, and he has said that foreign companies should come and do investment in India, do activities in India. Manufacturing is a province of India. It's a known fact. What is, of course, important to read here that he is open to the foreign businesses, but it's not seen in the policy. And I think that though he has a majority in the parliament, at this point of time, his main opposition party is not the people sitting on the opposition benches in the parliament, but the party within the BJP. The sentiments within the BJP who are likely to oppose his views on the economy, especially on FDI, foreign direct investment, and how he wants to take India to a next stage of economic reforms.
So you talked, Prashant, earlier in that answer about perhaps a lack of concrete moves by Narendra Modi. Now, the one thing he did do is go on this trip, this 5-day tour of Japan with a very specific goal. And though he didn't mention China by name, you know, there's this idea of countering Chinese expansionism in the region. Tell us briefly about that relationship between India and Japan, how close they are or how close they might be.
That's a very interesting angle he has taken visiting Japan. Economically, Japan is not a major trading partner for India. It is actually China. However, Japan still remains a major source of foreign direct investment in India. Japan, for instance, was the first company who tied up with the automobile sector in India in 80s and gave Indian a people's car, which is Maruti Suzuki. That's what the tie-up. They have been also very active in pharmaceutical industries in India, also in engineering industries in India. So there has been lots of tie-ups, there has been lots of relations in terms of the investments in India, which is interestingly not visibly seen as robust as in terms of when it becomes to the foreign trade between these two countries. At the same time, China remains a thorn between these two nations. There is a bit of a political romance going on between these two leaders, Modi and Shinzo Abe, and whether that will be reflected into the economic gains in the near future. Most likely it will happen, because Japan is number 2 when it comes to the foreign exchange reserves up to China. Shinzo Abe is also looking to revive the Japanese economy, and he's also looking for avenues to invest a large amount of foreign reserves which Japan has. And India offers a natural growing market for the products which will be either manufactured in China, or if China, in Japan, or if Japan decides to go into India and use its manufacturing base to export the products which are produced in India in the nearby region.
Prashant Samant, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your time. And still ahead on Counting the Cost, an aviation industry grounded. We look at what's happened to Iran's planes and when they might get off the ground again. Right now, though, a country you don't often hear that much about, Angola. Rich in resources, and it seems now willing to use the money it makes rather than just putting it away for a rainy day. Angola is Africa's second biggest oil producer after Nigeria, and it opened a sovereign wealth fund a couple of years ago with $5 billion in funds. Let's be clear, that is not much. Look at the top three. Fascinating, actually, to see Norway out on top with a sovereign wealth fund worth nearly $900 billion. Then it's the Gulf states, Abu Dhabi, with $773 billion, Saudi Arabia, $737 billion. Remember, the Gulf states often go after the big ticket items, the football teams and the major retail stores, property, etc. So what will Angola do with its cash? Our business editor Abed Ali spoke to the chairman of Angola's sovereign wealth fund, Jose Filomeno dos Santos, about where his comparatively small nation sees itself in the next decade or so.
I think we are the right size of fund for the size of the economy of Angola. As you know, it's a country that it's been in peace for just over a decade. It has several challenges to overcome in terms of improving social and economic livelihood of its citizens. And where we see ourselves in the coming year is in acting in this space, in having an institution which is accountable, transparent.
You mentioned transparency. Angola is ranked 153 out of 177 nations by Transparency International. How do you counter the fact that you are the president's son?
The fund is managed by a board of directors, which I chair. We follow an investment policy which has been determined by the government. We also follow the Santiago Principles, which are a set of 24 principles defined by the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world. We are a member of the International Forum of Sovereign Wealth Fund, and we adhere to the best practices of both investment management and the management of public entities.
Is Angola over-reliant on oil? 80% of your tax revenue, 40% of your growth comes from oil. What's the country doing to diversify?
A lot of efforts are being set since for several years to change the structure of the economy, and these efforts tend to focus mainly on strengthening the governance and accountability framework of the institutions. These requires a lot of capacity building and the adoption of international principles, which the country did not have a chance to have because we've had a civil unrest for a number of years. In fact, the Sovereign Wealth Fund is one of the institutions that comes from this effort of the government that to operate in a more transparent and efficient manner, so that its goals to improve the livelihood of the Angolan citizens are achieved.
You mentioned Angola citizens. When will the public see the benefits of this fund?
We've recently launched a scholarship program aimed at 45 skilled candidates that will undergo an intensive training in the area of asset management and financial studies, in order to ensure that we have in the coming months and over the coming years a new sort of workforce in terms of executives that can oversee the investments that we are planning to do now. Also in the hotel space, we have just finished a study to implement a hotel school, because that's a sector that we believe has a lot of potential. We will also be focusing on investing in commercial real estate in the coming months. So these are just examples of how we approach the investments. On the one hand, we will directly invest into the assets, but on the other hand, we will make sure that the community itself participates in the implementation and eventual management or even as clients of these projects.
We're going to finish up this week with Iran and its airline industry, like so many industries in the country, hit by sanctions, of course. And so Iran worked at developing its own planes. In that, it has been successful. However, 4 have crashed in the last 12 years, which has pretty much grounded the indigenous industry. Well, Soraya Lenny is joining us in studio this week. She's spent almost 2 years, I think, reporting for Al Jazeera in Iran, knows the realities of the sanctions and the society there. So tell us then about this industry, Soraya, which, as I say, does seem to be pretty much paralysed.
You're right, Kamal, it actually does. And in terms of obviously the safety standards, but also the number of planes Iran had hoped to make, which they're not even close to the targets that they'd set for themselves.
Iran's aviation industry is lumbering under the weight of sanctions. It's no secret. That's why very few people were surprised when this airplane tail fell out of the Tehran sky last month. Engine failure brought this Iran 140 down and killed 39 passengers and crew members. Aviation experts say the plane should never have been flying.
Unfortunately, because of the geography of Iran, our climate, our high temperatures, this is happening a lot, that the performance of these planes is really poor and they just don't have the capability to carry people.
The president has grounded the fleet and its future now hangs in the balance. Still, Tehran is forced to make models like this one and others because sanctions ban it from buying reliable planes. So Iran is left with a fleet that is mostly grounded for technical reasons. It doesn't have enough planes for domestic traffic, which has tripled in the past 3 decades. And this increase has put more stress on the entire fleet, which is already on average more than 22 years old. Until last November's nuclear deal, it was even illegal for Iran to buy spare parts to fix them. Despite the agreement, little has changed.
There is difference between advertising and acting. Correct, they said. We will remove these illegal sanctions, but no spare parts have reached Iran, nor has any engine left Iran for an overhaul.
And there are reasons why.
There still is difficulties because of financial sanctions and a tremendous amount of hesitation amongst banks in engaging in what is permitted trade because of a reputational risk, because of not a clear understanding of exactly what the regulations are. Regulations are fast changing, they're also somewhat ambiguous at times, and that has had the effect of companies essentially over implementing sanctions. They are refraining from doing things that actually are permissible out of a fear that they may still violate some unknown sanction.
November is the deadline for a permanent nuclear agreement, which could lift all sanctions. Until then, Iranians will be watching for signs of this long-promised overhaul.
Soraya, I was interested to see that the captain in your report who actually said that these planes that Iran is building aren't even suited to the country. Is this just necessity? Is that why they're building these planes?
Basically, yeah, it's exactly the planes that Iran can get. So this is why Iran is making these planes. They're Ukrainian design, that Iran 140. They're based on an Antonov, and the safety record across the board really is not that good. It's not just specifically for Iran regarding these planes, but it's making them because it can't get anything else. It can't get anything better. It's very, very simple. So that's exactly why Iran is making the 140 regardless of the safety record.
But then to that end, do the big players, the Boeings and the Airbuses of this world, actually want to get back into Iran? Do they see a market there?
Well, when the Geneva Accord in November came through, that temporary nuclear agreement, Boeing and Airbus expressed, and GE expressed massive interest in getting back into the Iranian market. It's obviously a very lucrative one. Population of 75 million, 21 million annual domestic passengers. So it's a lucrative market. They have applied, Boeing has applied for permissions to do trade with Iran, legal trade. It hasn't come through yet. That's the problem. That's what everyone's waiting for.
You mentioned the nuclear word, which is so key in everything. I mean, it basically is the umbrella that covers all of this. Iran obviously wants the sanctions lifted entirely. It's got a temporary reprieve at the moment, but it wants them lifted fully. What is the actual chance of that happening and then, I guess, therefore helping all industries in Iran?
Analysts say the chances of actually getting that permanent nuclear deal is still better than not getting one at all. And if you listen to the Iranian government, they've been very positive for the past year about getting this agreement. The IAEA, the UN's Atomic Energy Agency, said Iran is abiding by its part of the deal so far. So things are positive, looking a bit more positive than they are negative. Having said that, however, on the 29th of August, the US Treasury Department imposed more sanctions on Iran rather than actually removing them. And these included 4 airliners, including Mahan Air, for sanctions evading specifically because it was trying to get tires for its planes through a third party, which is considered illegal, but that's further complicated matters going into November.
Right, and so it will go on then. Saray Lenny joining us here in studio this week. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And that is our show for this week, but there's more for you online at aljazeera.com/programs. The Counting the Cost page has individual reports, links, entire episodes for you to catch up on, as well as a social media feed there down the side of people's comments and feedback, which of course you can join into if you like. You can tweet me at Kamal AJE, our business editor at Abid Oliver Ali, and do use the hashtag Counting the Cost as well, or you can just drop us an email. countingthecost@aljazeera.net is the address. But that is it for this edition of Counting the Cost. I'm Kamal Santamaria. From the whole team, thanks for joining us. The news on Al Jazeera is next.